Good evening, and welcome to Truth Report. I'm Alex Truth, and we have a packed show tonight covering stories from 4 continents, from the football pitches of London and Barcelona, to a devastating airstrike on a girls' school, to cricket's biggest stage, and a remarkable medical train crossing the vast steppes of Kazakhstan.
I'm Maya Clarity, and tonight we're digging into the stories that matter. We've got a London derby with massive title implications, a humanitarian crisis that demands the world's attention, a cricket clash between 2 giants, La Liga's title race heating up, and a story about healthcare innovation that puts wealthier nations to shame. Let's get to it.
We start tonight in North London, where the stakes could not be higher. Arsenal, sitting at the top of the Premier League table, host Chelsea in what promises to be one of the most consequential London derbies in years. According to Al Jazeera's preview, the Gunners are described as desperate for a win, and that word choice tells you everything about where this title race stands right now.
Desperate is exactly the right word, Alex. Arsenal have been the team to beat all season, but Manchester City's resurgence in recent weeks has completely changed the calculus. City have been on a tear, closing the gap at the top of the table, and suddenly what looked like a comfortable lead for Arsenal has evaporated into a genuine title fight. Every dropped point now carries enormous weight.
And this is where the fixture list becomes cruel. Chelsea are no pushovers, they've been one of the most improved sides in the league this season, and a trip to the Emirates is exactly the kind of high-profile match where they'll want to make a statement. For Arsenal, this isn't just about 3 points. It's about sending a message that they won't buckle under the pressure of a City surge.
Let's talk about what's at stake tactically. Arsenal under Mikel Arteta have built their success on defensive solidity and clinical set-piece execution. But Chelsea have the kind of attacking talent that can expose any defense. The team news and lineup selections for this match will be absolutely critical. Any injuries or suspensions could tip the balance in a match this tight.
What I find fascinating is the broader narrative here. Arsenal haven't won the Premier League title since the invincible season of 2003 to 2004. That's over 2 decades of waiting for a fanbase that has watched their club go from perennial contenders to also-rans and now, finally, back to genuine title challengers. The psychological burden of that history cannot be overstated.
And on the other side, Chelsea are a club in transition. Since the Todd Boehly ownership takeover, there's been enormous spending, massive squad turnover, and a constant search for identity. A strong result at the Emirates would validate the direction they're heading. So both clubs have something to prove beyond just the points.
Here's the deeper question I keep coming back to: the Premier League's title race is, at its core, a battle between enormous financial powers. Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City, these are clubs backed by billionaire owners and sovereign wealth. The competition on the pitch is thrilling, but we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that this is also a contest between some of the wealthiest entities on the planet.
That's an important point. The Premier League has become the most commercially successful football league in the world, generating billions in broadcast revenue. But that success comes with a cost. The gap between the richest clubs and the rest continues to grow. When we talk about Arsenal being desperate for a win, we're talking about a club whose wage bill alone exceeds the entire operating budgets of most clubs in the Football League pyramid below.
And the fans, the actual supporters who fill those stadiums week in and week out, they're the ones who carry the emotional weight of all of this. The ticket prices, the television subscriptions, the merchandise. Football at this level is big business first and sport second, and that tension is worth examining honestly.
Absolutely. But credit where it's due, the quality of football on display in this title race has been extraordinary. Arsenal versus Chelsea at the Emirates is the kind of match that reminds you why billions of people around the world are drawn to this game. The drama is real, even if the economics behind it deserve scrutiny.
Now we turn to a story that demands serious attention. An airstrike has hit a girls' school, and Iran's Foreign Minister Saeed Abbas Araghchi has issued a stark condemnation, saying the attack will not go unanswered. According to Middle East Eye's live reporting, this strike has drawn fierce international reaction and represents a significant escalation in an already volatile situation.
Let me be direct about what we're talking about here. A girls' school was struck. A place of learning, a place where young girls go to build their futures, was hit by military ordnance. Whatever the strategic calculations behind this attack, the moral calculus is clear: there is no justification for striking a school full of children.
Iran's condemnation is notable for its language. When a foreign minister says an attack will not go unanswered, that is not diplomatic boilerplate. That is a signal of potential escalation, a warning that retaliatory action is being considered. In a region already engulfed in overlapping conflicts and humanitarian crises, those words carry enormous weight.
We need to put this in the broader context of what's been happening. Civilian infrastructure, schools, hospitals, refugee camps, has been hit with alarming frequency in conflict zones across the Middle East. International humanitarian law is explicit, these are protected sites. The Geneva Conventions exist precisely to prevent attacks on places like schools. And yet, time and again, we see these protections violated.
And here's what makes this story so infuriating. Every time a school or hospital is struck, there's a familiar pattern. First comes the attack. Then come the denials or justifications, claims of military targets nearby, allegations that the site was being used for purposes other than education. Then comes the international condemnation, the calls for investigation. And then, almost inevitably, nothing happens. No accountability. No consequences.
The cycle of impunity is exactly what emboldens further attacks. When you can strike a girls' school and face no meaningful consequences beyond verbal condemnation, you've effectively been given permission to do it again. This is the fundamental failure of the international system right now, the gap between the rules we've written and the enforcement we're willing to carry out.
Iran's response also needs to be examined in its full geopolitical context. Tehran has its own strategic interests in the region, and condemnations like this serve multiple purposes, expressing genuine outrage, positioning itself as a defender of the oppressed, and justifying its own military posture. We should take the humanitarian concern seriously while also understanding that every statement from every government in this region is layered with strategic calculation.
What keeps me up at night about stories like this is the human dimension that gets lost in geopolitical analysis. These are girls. Children who were in school, trying to learn, trying to build lives in circumstances most of us cannot imagine. Each one of them had a name, a family, dreams for the future. When we reduce their deaths to a line item in a geopolitical chess game, we fail them a second time.
According to the reporting, the international community has reacted with widespread condemnation. But condemnation without action is just noise. The real question is whether any government, any international body, will take concrete steps to investigate this attack, identify those responsible, and hold them accountable under international law.
And let's be honest about the track record. The International Criminal Court, the United Nations Human Rights Council, various commissions of inquiry, these bodies exist, they do important work, but they are consistently undermined by the very powers that created them. When permanent members of the UN Security Council can veto accountability measures, the system is designed to protect the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable.
This strike on a girls' school is not an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern that stretches back years, a pattern of attacks on educational facilities, on healthcare infrastructure, on the civilian systems that hold societies together. And until the international community moves beyond statements and toward consequences, that pattern will continue.
We owe it to those girls, and to every civilian caught in every conflict zone around the world, to keep reporting on this, to keep demanding answers, and to refuse to let these stories fade from the news cycle the moment something else grabs our attention.
Now we shift to the world of cricket, where the T20 World Cup Super 8 stage has produced a blockbuster matchup. According to Al Jazeera, defending champions India are set to face fellow record winners West Indies, with a semi-final spot on the line. This is a clash of cricketing titans with enormous implications.
This is the kind of match that cricket fans dream about. India and the West Indies are two of the most successful teams in T20 World Cup history, and the fact that they're meeting in the Super 8s with semi-final qualification at stake adds a layer of intensity that elevates this beyond a normal fixture. Both teams know that defeat could mean elimination.
India come into this as the defending champions, which brings its own unique pressure. In cricket, defending a World Cup title is extraordinarily difficult, the expectations, the target on your back, the weight of 1 billion fans demanding nothing less than perfection. Indian cricket carries a burden of expectation unlike any other sporting culture on earth.
And the West Indies are the original entertainers of T20 cricket. They won the inaugural T20 World Cup in 2007 and added another title in 2012 and again in 2016. This is a format that suits their aggressive, fearless approach. They have players who can single-handedly destroy a bowling attack in the space of a few overs, and in front of what will likely be a passionate home crowd, they'll be incredibly dangerous.
Let's talk about the economics of this for a moment, because cricket at this level is about far more than sport. The T20 format was designed to be commercially viable, shorter matches, more entertainment, more advertising revenue. The Indian Premier League has turned T20 cricket into a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the World Cup is where that commercial model meets national pride.
The BCCI, the Board of Control for Cricket in India, is the wealthiest cricket board in the world by a massive margin. India's participation in any tournament essentially determines its commercial viability. That's an extraordinary amount of power concentrated in one national board, and it shapes everything from scheduling to broadcast deals to the very structure of international cricket.
For the West Indies, this match represents something different. West Indian cricket has faced significant challenges, financial constraints, player exodus to franchise leagues, administrative difficulties. A strong World Cup performance can reinvigorate the sport across the Caribbean and remind the world that West Indian cricket, when it fires on all cylinders, is a force unlike any other.
The Super 8's format itself adds fascinating dynamics. Unlike a straight knockout, teams play multiple matches at this stage, so net run rate can become a factor. Every ball bowled, every run scored matters not just for the individual match but potentially for qualification calculations. It rewards consistency and punishes complacency.
What I love about cricket at this level is how it transcends sport and becomes a genuine cultural event. In India, a World Cup match essentially stops the country. Streets empty, productivity drops, 1 billion people are united in front of screens. In the Caribbean, it's a celebration of identity and resilience. Sport at its best connects people to something larger than themselves.
And the players themselves carry that weight. When Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma walks out to bat in a World Cup match, they're carrying the hopes of over 1 billion people. When a West Indian all-rounder smashes a six, they're channeling decades of Caribbean cricketing heritage. The human stories behind these matches are what make them unforgettable.
From cricket we head to Spanish football, where La Liga's title race is providing drama of its own. According to Al Jazeera, league leaders Barcelona are hosting third-placed Villarreal in what could be a defining match. This is a fixture that could shape the destination of the Spanish championship.
Barcelona under their current setup have been playing some of the most exciting football in Europe. Their academy products, combined with smart signings, have created a team that plays with the kind of attacking verve that Camp Nou demands. But Villarreal, the Yellow Submarine, have been the surprise package of this La Liga season, sitting in third place and refusing to be intimidated by the traditional giants.
Villarreal's story is one of the great narratives in Spanish football. This is a club from a town of barely 50,000 people, competing at the highest level against Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid, clubs with budgets many times larger. Their sustained success is a testament to smart recruitment, excellent coaching, and a clear footballing philosophy.
But let's not romanticize it too much. La Liga has a massive revenue distribution problem. Barcelona and Real Madrid receive a disproportionate share of the league's broadcast income compared to smaller clubs. The fact that Villarreal can compete despite this financial imbalance is remarkable, but it doesn't change the fact that the system is fundamentally tilted in favor of the biggest clubs.
This match is significant for Barcelona because the title race in La Liga has been tighter than many predicted. They can't afford to drop points at home, especially against a Villarreal side that has proven they can get results against top opposition. Camp Nou will be expecting nothing less than a victory, and the pressure on the players to deliver is immense.
What's interesting about La Liga this season is how it mirrors what we're seeing in the Premier League, the established order being challenged, the gap between the top and the chasing pack narrowing, and every match carrying outsized importance because the margins are so thin. Football across Europe is becoming more competitive at the top, even as the financial disparities grow larger.
The tactical battle in this match will be fascinating. Barcelona's possession-based style against Villarreal's organized, intelligent approach. Both teams have coaches who prioritize attacking football, which should make for an open, entertaining match. But in a title race, entertainment is secondary to results.
And for the players involved, particularly Barcelona's young stars, matches like this are where reputations are made. Performing on the big stage, delivering when the pressure is at its peak, that's what separates the good from the great. This is the crucible of La Liga football, and how these players respond will define their careers.
There's also the question of Real Madrid lurking in the background. Even when we're talking about Barcelona versus Villarreal, the shadow of Real Madrid looms over everything in Spanish football. Any points dropped by Barca are points that could benefit Madrid, and that three-way dynamic at the top of the table makes every fixture calculation exponentially more complex.
Spanish football, like the Premier League, is also a story of enormous commercial power. La Liga's global broadcast deals are worth billions, and Barcelona and Real Madrid are two of the most valuable sports franchises on the planet. The football is wonderful, but it exists within a system that prioritizes revenue generation above almost everything else, including competitive balance.
Our final story tonight takes us far from the stadiums and conflict zones to the vast, remote steppes of Kazakhstan, where a remarkable healthcare initiative is saving lives. According to Al Jazeera's 101 East documentary program, a trained hospital is bringing vital medical care to some of the most isolated communities in the world. This is a story that deserves far more attention than it gets.
Kazakhstan is the 9th largest country on Earth by land area. It's absolutely enormous, roughly the size of Western Europe. But its population is only about 20 million people, many of whom live in remote, rural communities scattered across thousands of kilometers of steppe, desert, and mountain terrain. For these communities, accessing healthcare can mean journeys of hundreds of kilometers over roads that are often impassable.
The train hospital concept is both ingeniously simple and deeply humane. Instead of asking patients to travel to hospitals, the hospital travels to the patients. A fully equipped medical train, staffed with doctors and specialists, moves along Kazakhstan's extensive rail network, stopping at remote towns and villages to provide consultations, diagnostics, and treatment that these communities would otherwise never receive.
Think about what this means in practical terms. A child in a remote village who has never seen a specialist can receive a proper diagnosis. An elderly person with a chronic condition can get medication and monitoring. Pregnant women can receive prenatal care. These aren't luxuries, they're basic healthcare services that much of the world takes for granted, being delivered in an innovative way because the geography makes conventional healthcare delivery impossible.
What strikes me about this story is the contrast it presents with healthcare systems in wealthier nations. Here's Kazakhstan, a middle-income country that was part of the Soviet Union until 1991, finding creative solutions to deliver healthcare to its most vulnerable populations. Meanwhile, in the United States, the richest country on earth, millions of people in rural communities face similar access challenges, and the response has been to close rural hospitals rather than innovate.
That's a critical point. Since 2010, over 150 rural hospitals have closed across the United States. Rather than finding ways to bring healthcare to underserved communities, the American system has retreated from them because they're not profitable enough. Kazakhstan's train hospital model is a rebuke to any system that treats healthcare as a commodity rather than a right.
The doctors who staff these medical trains deserve enormous recognition. They're leaving the relative comfort of urban hospitals to spend days and weeks traveling through some of the most remote terrain imaginable, in extreme weather conditions, to treat patients they may never see again. That kind of dedication to the medical mission, to the fundamental idea that every person deserves care regardless of where they live, is profoundly admirable.
And the communities they serve, these are people who have been living with untreated conditions, undiagnosed illnesses, chronic pain, because they simply had no access to medical professionals. The arrival of the train hospital isn't just a medical event, it's a lifeline. It's the difference between suffering in silence and receiving help. The human impact of this program is immeasurable.
There's also a fascinating historical dimension here. Kazakhstan's rail network was largely built during the Soviet era, when centralized planning prioritized infrastructure connectivity. That investment, made decades ago under a completely different political system, is now enabling a healthcare innovation that serves the modern population. Infrastructure investments have consequences that extend far beyond the generation that builds them.
The train hospital model also raises important questions about scalability and sustainability. Can this approach be replicated in other countries with similar geographic challenges, Mongolia, Australia, Canada's Northern Territories, parts of Brazil? The success of Kazakhstan's program suggests that mobile healthcare delivery could be a model for serving remote populations worldwide, if governments are willing to invest.
Now, let's pull these stories together, because there are threads connecting everything we've covered tonight that reveal something important about the world we're living in. We've talked about football, the Premier League and La Liga, where billions of dollars flow through global entertainment empires. We've talked about an airstrike on a girls' school, where the most basic protections of international law have been violated. We've talked about cricket, where sport and commerce and national identity intersect. And we've talked about a train hospital in Kazakhstan, where human ingenuity is saving lives.
The common thread, Alex, is the question of what we invest in and what we neglect. The global football industry generates tens of billions of dollars annually. The cricket economy, driven by India, is worth billions more. We have created extraordinary systems for delivering entertainment to billions of people. And yet, we cannot protect a girls' school from being bombed. We cannot deliver basic healthcare to remote communities without extraordinary improvisation.
That's the fundamental disparity of our time. We live in a world that can beam a Premier League match to every corner of the globe in real time, but cannot consistently enforce the rules of war that protect children. We can organize a T20 World Cup across multiple countries with flawless logistics, but we cannot organize an international response to systematic attacks on civilian infrastructure.
The Kazakhstan train hospital story is the most hopeful thing we've covered tonight, precisely because it represents a different set of priorities. Someone in Kazakhstan's government looked at their remote communities and said, "These people deserve healthcare, and we're going to find a way to deliver it." That's a choice. A political choice, a moral choice, a budgetary choice. And it stands in stark contrast to systems that prioritize profit over people.
When we look at the Premier League and La Liga, we see the pinnacle of what commercial investment can achieve. The football is magnificent, the production values are extraordinary, the global reach is unmatched. But that investment reflects our collective priorities. We invest in what we value, and what we value, apparently, is entertainment more than education, spectacle more than safety.
I want to be clear, there's nothing wrong with loving sport. Football and cricket bring genuine joy to billions of people, and that matters. But when we can spend billions on transfer fees while schools in conflict zones go unprotected, when we can build state-of-the-art stadiums while rural hospitals close, we need to ask ourselves some uncomfortable questions about the world we're building.
And the story of the air strike on the girls' school is the sharpest indictment of all. Those girls were doing exactly what the world tells them to do, getting an education, building their futures, contributing to their communities. And the international system that was supposed to protect them failed. Iran's condemnation, however layered with strategic calculation it may be, at least acknowledges the moral horror of what happened. The question is whether anyone will do anything beyond issuing statements.
That's what we do here at Truth Report. We connect the dots, we ask the uncomfortable questions, and we refuse to accept the easy narratives. Tonight's stories, taken individually, are a sports preview, a conflict report, a cricket match, a football game, and a human interest piece. Taken together, they're a portrait of a world that has extraordinary capacity and deeply misaligned priorities.
Before we go, I want to come back to Kazakhstan's train hospital one more time. Because in a show full of stories about power, money, and violence, this is the story about what happens when people choose to serve others. Those doctors on that train, traveling through some of the most remote terrain on Earth to treat patients who have nowhere else to turn, they represent the best of what humanity can be.
And they remind us that solutions exist. The problems we've discussed tonight, healthcare access, civilian protection, economic inequality in sport, these aren't unsolvable mysteries. They're the result of choices, and they can be changed by different choices. The train hospital proves that. It's not perfect, it's not sufficient on its own, but it's an example of human beings refusing to accept that geography should determine whether you live or die.
That's all for tonight's Truth Report. I'm Alex Truth. Remember, the stories we've covered tonight will continue to develop. The Arsenal-Chelsea match will have a result, the La Liga title race will continue, India and the West Indies will battle for a semi-final spot. But the girls' school that was struck, the remote communities waiting for the next medical train, those stories don't end when the cameras turn off.
I'm Maya Clarity. Stay informed, stay critical, and never stop asking who benefits and who pays the price. We'll see you next time on Truth Report. Good night.